Hey internet, I'm making a VR adventure game called Witchfell. I've been making shorts for a couple of months to share what I'm doing, and I've reached the point where I need more room to share everything. I'm not sure what it is y'all will enjoy watching the most, so for this first video, I'm going to speedrun a brief taste test of all the things. I'm going to talk about what's in the game right now, why am I making it, what's my game dev tech, what's the design for the rest, and when can you play it. Let's take a quick look at some of the things that are already in the game. To start with, I've spent some time working out an art style that I think I can build out on my own. This little glade represents the density and movement I want to see in the world. I want it to feel lush and to give off a pleasant pastoral vibe. This is Grim, the Grimoire of Witchfell. This little guy will greet you when you arrive in Witchfell and be your companion for the whole adventure. A lot of the interface for the game will be his pages. Because I'm working alone, I need to get as much out of each location as I can, so I've experimented with weather and time to add a layer of set dressing to keep things interesting when I'm telling stories. Magic is the heart of the Witchfell story, and I've been experimenting with depicting various classic magic tropes in first-person VR. Now you see it, now you don't. I call these sigils. Who doesn't love a good magic circle? Witchfell isn't intended to be an action-heavy game, but I do want some satisfying spell combat. So here's a quick run-through of our protagonists learning their first 2 combat spells. This is the first time the player will do any of this stuff, so it's all level 1 spells. First thing you want to do is cast Shell. To do that, we'll have to draw the sigil in the air. Sweet. Spell cast. That little bangle is our spell status indicator. The shell spell works by holding your hand out in the direction that you need the shield. So there I kind of, I missed a little bit. That's a hit. The tutorial updates with what you're doing. A couple of blocks in, and now it's time to cast Magic Missile. Here we go. Sigil again. As your spells level up, you'll get better at doing these, and they'll become easier to do as well. Nice. So Magic Missile is a projectile. You grab them with your finger, and then you just kind of drag them over the enemy. And it'll take the direction that you were dragging and turn that into the direction of the travel of the missile. Here we go. Guy's getting hit. Oh, he's got a shield up, so he can be hit from above. But if we try and hit him, yeah, that's not going to work. That's going to hit the shield. And we've run out of ammo. So recast Magic Missile. Go, go, go. Finish the sigil. Faster. Upgraded versions of Magic Missile will include having more ammo, as well as different kinds of effects like them being on fire instead, and stuff like that. Nice. Keep going. You know how this works. Go, go, go. Hit, hit, hit. There. Ta-da! That's what combat's gonna look like. Well, I've always been a huge fan of adventure games. One of the first I can remember really blowing my mind was Loom. It might seem simple now, but at the time this was astonishing. It was a story. I got to go places, meet people. I learned how to cast magic. Over the years, I would come to love every single adventure LucasArts put out, and when I later became a game dev professional, I always dreamed of building something like those games. Related to that, again, it's almost impossible to imagine now, but mice, like computer mice, were new back then. Pointing and clicking to make things happen, that was its own kind of witchcraft. Using your hands to do things in VR is the first thing in decades that has reminded me of that wild feeling. Switching gears, I'm also a hopeless anime fan. That has always been a thing for me, but at some point the isekai genre blew up and it just clicked with me. Like, who doesn't want to step into another world where the things we fantasize are real? Yes! It is wild how fertile this basic premise has been in anime, with stories that range from silly pratfall comedies to grim dark horror dramas. Maybe it's just me, but I kind of love the cultural exchange loop that exists between European fantasy and Japanese anime and gaming culture. So many tropes have traveled back and forth between them, getting enriched with each volley. It's fascinating to me that I can watch a goofy isekai anime and feel nostalgia for the piles and piles of fantasy books and RPGs I grew up reading.
Oh no, it's Tiamat.
Working in the industry, I've always dreamed of taking some time out to do my own thing, and Witchfell is me finally doing the thing, pulling stuff together to make something of my own. Wish me luck. The first confession here is that Witchfell runs in a browser, like a web browser. It's written with something called WebXR, a tech that lets you make VR experiences on a plain old web page. So why am I doing that? Well, two reasons. A, it's fast. B, it's almost everywhere. When I say fast, I mean it's fast to develop in. It's kind of crazy that I can make any change I want to my code or art. It's automatically built behind the scenes, and by the time I look over to the browser, it's already reloaded. I do this by running a web server on my laptop and then just loading the page in Safari on the Vision Pro. The live server plugin in Visual Studio Code even handles the reloading automatically. When I say it runs everywhere, I mean the same game served from my PC also loads just fine in the Quest browser. To see if things are working in the other headset, I just have to put it on. No waiting for the app to install, it's already there. Fingers crossed when the Steam frames show up, it'll just work there too. The Chrome browser works on the Steam Deck, and that has support for WebXR on PC, so here's hoping. What's the catch? Well, the performance isn't the best. Once you're on the GPU, everything should be similar, but the CPU is going to be way slower in JavaScript versus native code. I can get fluid frame rates and responsive inputs, but in exchange, I have to make simpler designs and work harder at optimization. This means, for instance, a lot of work writing custom shaders for everything, so that I can offload work from the CPU to the GPU instead. For example, this particle system of floating magic motes uses a pre-computed lookup table baked into a texture to drive the motion. The CPU just needs to update a simple time value each frame, the GPU does the rest. I still need them to be dynamic though. If I tweak another number, I can get a little smooth bump of excitement, or I can tweak another and they go wild. And when they're done, they can fade out gracefully. All that control, and I'm just modifying a couple numbers in JavaScript. The same goes for the grass and trees. They're static meshes with a custom vertex shader that does the animation. I can ramp a few shader constants up and down in the code to smoothly depict different wind intensities. Let me know if you're interested in detailed breakdowns of my shaders, by the way, or any part of my tech stack. The nice thing about shaders is that the underlying principles are defined by GPU architectures, not CPU code, so techniques transfer easily between different code bases and game engines. I really want to talk about how weird designing for first-person stereoscopic 3D with hands and gaze controls is, but this video is already getting really long. I'll save it for another video. So where am I going with all of this? Well, I'm not exactly sure. I know how the game starts and ends, and right now I'm really just experimenting with lots of stuff to figure out what should go in the middle. Every day I go on a little journey to try something out to see if, it sparks joy. Like, is playing with fire fun? Is it even an isekai if there aren't any slimes? Should the player be able to see themselves? Okay, we definitely need other characters, but how am I going to script them? What do I need to tell the story?
Hey there, Mr. Ranger.
Do I need a scripting language? The answer is always yes. Ask me why. Can I use meshes to design location-specific spawn and movement behavior for enemies in Blender? I can. Red is where they spawn, green is their target. The rest is like a nav mesh. Can I shape my trees as volumes in Blender? How about an adaptive tutorial system so I can cope when the player goes off script explaining things as they come up? Oh, we're definitely going to need some kind of save system. Yeah, if you're a game dev dork, save game systems can spark joy too. I could really use some debug controls in VR because I can't see the keyboard while I'm testing. Okay, so none of the available audio libraries quite do what I want. I guess I'll write my own audio library then. I want async lazy loading, banks, buses, setting properties when I play, optional handles for fire and forget sounds explicit HTML5 versus web audio buffer selection, and a few other things. Should I open source this? It's called Pew, as in pew pew pew. Sometimes I just sit with the story and daydream up a couple of scenes and imagine how they'd fit into the game. Honestly, it goes on and on. Some things work, some things don't. Let me know how much of this sausage making y'all would like to hear about. I'm always happy to chat about stuff. Speaking of which, I don't know if anyone will show up, but I'm starting a Witchfell Discord server to chat about the game. Drop on by to say hi. Pretty sure that'll be where I tell folks about the demo, too. Okay, we're close to wrapping up here. Before the end, I'm gonna ask the usual. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, interact with this video in any way that makes sense to you so that the algorithm gods show it to the next person. I'm sure you know how important that is to the survival of an indie game by now and how much I'll appreciate it. It's really only you who can make this happen. Thanks. Okay, so when can you play it? The answer is, and I feel like this should be obvious if you watch the rest of the video, I have no clue. What I do know is that designing for VR and hands is so weird that I'm gonna need feedback sooner rather than later. So I'm aiming for some kind of summer demo, like a really early demo, just a little playground where you can try things out and let me know how it feels. But yeah, a demo, sometime in the summer. Please look forward to that. All right, so first video done. I'm not sure how to end these things, so please enjoy a supercut of me being beamed in the head by my own creation. Chill. See you next time. Ow. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done this in the dark.